Every 10 years, after the U.S. Census, states redraw congressional districts, a process called redistricting. This process is more than just a bureaucratic exercise. It's a fundamental part of how our democracy works. The census counts every person living in the country, and those numbers determine how many seats each state gets in the House of Representatives. But it's not just about population. It's about power, influence, and the future direction of our nation. These lines decide who represents us in Washington and which party holds power. The boundaries drawn on these maps can determine whether your community's voice is heard or drowned out. They can mean the difference between a competitive election and a foregone conclusion. The stakes are huge. The way maps are drawn can tilt elections, silence communities, and shape national policy for a decade. A single line on a map can split neighborhoods, divide cities, or unite like-minded voters, all with lasting consequences. But redistricting isn't just about numbers, it's deeply political. Behind closed doors, politicians and strategists pore over demographic data, looking for ways to maximize their advantage. The process can be technical, but the motivations are often anything but neutral. In most states, the party in power controls the map, giving them a chance to protect their own and weaken the opposition. This control can mean drawing districts that favor incumbents or split up opposition voters to minimize their impact. When this becomes about partisan advantage, it's called gerrymandering. Gerrymandering is the art of manipulating district boundaries to create an unfair advantage for one party over another, often resulting in bizarrely shaped districts that defy logic and geography. Gerrymandering can lock in a party's power, making elections less competitive and less representative. It can discourage voter turnout, erode trust in the system, and leave entire communities feeling powerless and ignored. A state split evenly between parties can end up sending a lopsided delegation to Congress, all because of how the lines are drawn. This means that even if voters are divided 50-50, one party can dominate the state's representation. That's why redistricting battles are so fierce. The outcome can shift the balance of power for years, affecting everything from local schools to national policy. Now Texas is in the spotlight, not for its usual once-a-decade map drawing, but for a rare mid-decade redistricting push. This move has drawn national scrutiny, as it's unusual for a state to redraw its maps so soon after the last round. Republicans, already in control, want to redraw the maps just a few years after the last ones. They argue it's necessary to reflect recent changes, but critics see it as a strategic move to entrench their power even further. Their goal: cement even more power in Washington. By redrawing the lines now, they hope to secure their majority for years to come, regardless of how voters might shift in the future. Democrats call it a blatant power grab meant to silence their voters. They warn that this kind of maneuver undermines the very foundation of fair representation and democracy. The result? A political standoff that's paralyzed Texas government and captured national attention. Lawmakers have walked out, debates have stalled, and the eyes of the nation are watching to see what happens next. The fight over these lines isn't just about Texas. It's about the future of American democracy. The way we draw our districts shapes who has a voice, who gets to lead, and whose interests are served. The outcome here could set the tone for the entire country, influencing how other states approach redistricting and what kind of democracy we become in the years ahead. Texas Republicans, led by Governor Greg Abbott, are pushing for a dramatic shakeup. They want to toss out the current congressional map, even though it was just drawn after the last census. Their goal is to draw a brand new map, right in the middle of the decade, a move that's both bold and controversial. If successful, this plan could flip as many as 5 seats from Democrat to Republican, giving the GOP a commanding 30 out of 38 Texas seats in Congress, an even tighter grip on the state's political future. The proposed map zeroes in on Democratic incumbents, especially in Texas's fast-growing, increasingly diverse cities, where shifting demographics have made races more competitive. In South Texas, for example, districts currently held by Henry Cuellar and Vicente Gonzalez would be redrawn to carve out Democratic voters and tilt the balance toward Republicans, threatening the region's long-standing Democratic representation. In the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, Julie Johnson's district would be split apart and absorbed into surrounding Republican strongholds, making it nearly impossible for a Democrat to win. Meanwhile, in Houston, Al Green, a black Democrat, would see his district stretched into whiter, more conservative suburbs, diluting the voting power of his core supporters and making re-election much harder. The intent behind these changes is clear: to weaken minority voting power, undermine Democratic influence, and lock in Republican dominance for years to come. Mid-decade redistricting is extremely rare and breaks long-standing political norms, but Texas Republicans see a unique opportunity to secure their power before the next election cycle. With full control of the state government, they're moving quickly to push this plan forward, unless Democrats can find a way to block them and protect their seats. That's when Texas Democrats decided to take a stand, setting the stage for a fierce political showdown that could shape the state's future for a generation. To block the vote, over 50 Texas House Democrats fled the state in an unprecedented move that shocked the nation. They headed to places like Illinois and New York, seeking refuge and a way to halt the legislative process back home. Their absence denied the House the quorum needed to pass the controversial redistricting bill, effectively putting a stop to the proceedings. This wasn't a vacation. It was a last-ditch stand to protect their voters' voices and ensure fair representation. The Democrats held press conferences, framing their flight as a fight for democracy and civil rights. The risks were real, leaving families, jobs, and facing political backlash. They knew the stakes were high, but believed the cause was worth the sacrifice. They pledged to stay away as long as needed, even if it meant weeks in exile, living out of suitcases and working from makeshift offices. By leaving, they froze the legislative process, betting that public pressure would force Republicans to negotiate and reconsider the bill. It's a high-stakes gamble, turning a state dispute into a national battle over voting rights, drawing attention from across the country. The question remains, can they hold out long enough to make a difference? Or will the pressure force them to return before achieving their goals? Governor Abbott responded with threats of arrest, vowing to bring the Democrats back by force. Civil arrest warrants were issued, but only enforceable within Texas borders. As long as Democrats stayed out of state, they were safe, but unable to return home. The governor also threatened hefty daily fines, stripping committee roles, and public shaming. The goal: break the Democrats' resolve through legal, financial, and personal pressure. Republicans hoped the mounting costs would force lawmakers to return, restoring quorum. Democrats, meanwhile, counted on unity and national attention to withstand the pressure. The standoff became a test of endurance and political will. Both sides dug in, knowing the outcome could reshape Texas politics for years. The nation watched as the drama escalated. The Texas showdown sent shockwaves nationwide. Democratic leaders in states like California and New York warned they'd retaliate with their own partisan maps if Texas Republicans succeeded. This could trigger a national redistricting arms race, each party redrawing maps to crush the other. The result? Fewer competitive districts, more polarization, and even less incentive for compromise. Elections would become foregone conclusions, deepening distrust in democracy. The Texas fight is now a test case. If aggressive gerrymandering wins here, it could become the new normal everywhere. The stakes aren't just local, they're national. The future of fair representation hangs in the balance. Beneath the partisan fight lies a deeper issue: race. Democrats and civil rights groups accuse Republicans of racial gerrymandering, diluting Black and Latino voting power. The proposed map splits minority communities, submerging them into whiter conservative districts. This cracking tactic undermines the Voting Rights Act and decades of civil rights progress. Despite population growth among Black and Latino Texans, the new map would reduce their representation. Democrats argue this isn't just about party, it's about civil rights and equality. The plan, they say, is designed to silence the state's fastest-growing communities. The battle in Texas is now a fight for justice as much as politics. Texas has seen this play before. In 2021, Democrats fled to block a voting bill, but after weeks away, enough returned for Republicans to pass it. That history looms over today's standoff. Republicans are betting Democrats will crack again, but this time Democrats insist the stakes are higher. A decade of representation is on the line. To succeed, they may need to stay away for months through multiple special sessions. The challenge: maintain unity and withstand mounting pressure. Breaking quorum is dramatic, but rarely succeeds long-term. The outcome will hinge on endurance, public support, and whether this time history repeats or changes. The nation is watching to see if Texas Democrats can hold the line. The Texas redistricting battle isn't just a local story. It's a warning for all of America. At stake, whether elections are fair contests or rigged by those in power, gerrymandering erodes trust, fuels cynicism, and tells voters their voices don't matter. If Texas sets a precedent for mid-decade power grabs, other states may follow. The fight also exposes deepening polarization and the collapse of political norms. What happens here will echo nationwide, shaping the rules of democracy for years. The lawmakers' protest is a test of whether Americans will demand fair representation. The outcome will affect us all. How does this end? Several paths are possible, none easy. Democrats might crack under pressure, return, and allow Republicans to pass their map, cementing GOP power but deepening division. Or Democrats could hold out for weeks or months, blocking the map for now but not forever. The underlying fight would remain, setting up future showdowns. A third option: compromise. National attention and the threat of a redistricting arms race could force both sides to the table. A bipartisan map would be a rare win for fair representation. The outcome depends on unity, endurance, and public pressure. Texas's political future and a piece of America's democracy hangs in the balance. The next moves will shape not just Texas, but the nation. The story isn't over yet.